Yes. I cannot help but admire this Tibetan name from their spirit and perseverance. I hope some project can happen there, and I really hope work some of you who want to work there. In the Yachin monasteries, nuns have access to the higher teachings, are great practitioners, and have profound realization. The nuns then have great reach the share from their practice with society at large. If we can think of ways that they might pass on and share their deep wisdom and compassion with the wider communities, it would bring great benefit to many people. And since now generally the monks have the responsibilities to teach large gathering of people and guide the monastics through their higher practice. Well, the nuns teach the groups in their own room and generally guide their followers nuns through the preliminary practice. Vajrayana Buddhism gave Tibetan women a lofty status and the sunny space on the conception level. The challenge that Tibetan nuns are facing is how to be more aware, confident, and self-reliant in playing their social rules, in studying contemplatively and practice the Dharma, and in realize compassion and wisdom so that they may continue to make progress and gain recognitions and affirmation by both religion and society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Venerable Som. It is now my pleasure and my honor to introduce our honored guest, Channy Park, who received an MA in Drama and Theater and a PhD in Asian Languages and Literatures at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. Currently, she is an associate professor in the Department of East Asian Languages and Literatures at Ohio State University, and she is the author of Voices from the Straw Mat, Towards an Ethnography of Pasori Singing. Today, she will present a paper to us on Setchu Jakchu, Living as a Master of the World.
Thank you very much for your wonderful introduction. And thank you. I can only thank all of us, all of you, to be here, and for me to be here in this wonderful, honorable place to share some ideas, the common ideas and common causes. In summer 2009, I received an extraordinary lesson from Bhikkhuni Chamin Sunim, the abbess of Hyangjok Temple, in the form of a four-character word. Sucho Jakju, follow the place, be the master. This can be translated as, wherever you go, think of the place as your own to care for. While I understand the term primarily as an epistemological guideline, that is, for how we position ourselves through changing situations and relate to the world as a whole, I realize that its interpretation also necessarily includes sharing. Each individual returns what he or she receives in order to facilitate healthy exchanges of goodwill, just as inhaling and exhaling are exchanges of energy within and without. First, it behooves us to define our use of the noun master and the verb to own. In daily life, to own commonly means to possess material goods, financial instruments, real estate, and in some cases, servants or other socially oppressed chattel, including women, pets, or livestock. All therefore has been associated with possessiveness, either directly in terms of legal possession and the desire or greed that fans it, or indirectly in terms of aggression that prompts us to take that which we desire. In the professional and artistic fields, the word master is reserved for those who possess virtuosity or mastery of skills. Whereas in the field of production and labor, the same word is associated with the politics of hierarchy, as in the histories of slavery and exploitation around the world. If reflected through the lens of selflessness, however, the same words take on different meanings. To own means owning up to our responsibilities for nurturing our surroundings. It denotes care giving rather than taking. The teaching imparted to me by Chamin Sunim is one that awakened my consciousness to compassion and sharing. In the present discussion, owning or assuming the role of a master means caring for a place as if it was our own, caring for the land, streams, and hills as if they were extensions of our own heart and home. If all human beings treated the environment as if it were part of our own homes and lands, we might not face such global warming as has recently been reported. Everyone wants to enjoy nature's bounties, including clean air, water, scenic wonders, but few people take responsibility for keeping these resources clean and healthy. The old folk tale, Little Red Hen, provides a fitting analogy. The little red hen finds a grain of wheat and solicits her fellow farmyard animals to help plant it, but they are too lazy to help her. During each process of harvest, threshing, milling, and bread baking, she asks them for assistance, but they do not budge. At the completion of her task, the hen finally asks her fellow animals, "Who will help eat the bread?" This time, everyone eagerly volunteers, but this time the hen declines their offers of help. This time, the moral of the story, as commonly understood, is that unless we contribute to the process, we do not get to enjoy the fruits of the labor. From the perspective of Buddha's teachings, our discussion should go beyond the message of social justice and the Protestant work ethic encoded in the story and extended to the realm of self-awakening. The morals of compassion and forgiveness suit our common purpose better than the distribution of social justice in terms of production and consumption. However, the story resembles reality in that the majority of people aspire to own the fruits of the labor, even though few take responsibility for the process of cultivation. The story harkens to a need for respect and collaboration among sentient beings on all levels, from the individual to the family, village, region, nation, and global community. The need to accept responsibility for coexistence directly addresses the issues of accelerated environmental destruction and global warming. The U.S. Senate and the National Press Corps have recently accepted the testimony of world experts that they are witnessing the accelerated melting and breakup of the polar ice caps, and that the previous worst-case scenarios for a meter of sea level rise this century are the new minimum of what we can expect. In the U.S. alone, large areas and cities along the Atlantic coast will be underwater before the end of the century. This is a legacy we are leaving our grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Hyperbolically, my grandchildren or great-grandchildren living in Ohio may be drinking coffee on their front porches, gazing at the tides of the Atlantic coast, where once were cornfields. For the past 20 years, national leaders and researchers have frequently gathered to identify the problems and solutions for this imminent global catastrophe. Even with years of accumulated scientific data and proof, the news reports that climate drama climax looks elusive in Copenhagen, implying that global collaboration to address the causes of climate change continues to be thwarted by evasion, delays, hesitation, and denial. While rich nations have been competing among themselves to ensure maximum protection for their national interest, they argue with less fortunate nations over the legal structure of an eventual deal. Developing nations resist the rich nations' efforts to bind them legally to closer scrutiny in their pursuit of greener economies. All this contest invokes the ancient Sonshi, a Zen poem of awakening, titled Clay Oxen by Baegun Sonsa, one of the most eminent Buddhist monks at the end of Goryeo dynasty in Korean history. And it goes like this. Two clay oxen fight each other. Then they jump into the sea, bellowing. Past, present, and future rush after, but can't find them in the roiled water. The image of large animals locking horns and wrestling, then jumping into the sea, bellowing, all to be lost in the end, is a fitting analogy for the ongoing conflicts about climate change that rage among nations. How did our communal home, our planet that has been in existence for 4.6 billion years, become polluted to such an extent in a mere century, a minuscule fraction of its lifespan? Two major historical factors have led to our current climactic peril. First, the industrialization and machination that led to mass production. And second, the proliferation of global capitalism and current multinational corporate practices. With machination and mass production, consumption became disconnected from production. We do not know where the eggs, rice, meat, or vegetables we eat come from. Goods are packaged and put on the shelves of mega corporate, multinational, big box retail operations like Walmart, far from where they were produced. Second, global capitalism shifts capital, labor, and markets in ways that promote global domination, not by military force, but by unhealthy concentrations of economic power. The astronomical wealth snowballing in the hands of a few rarely reaches those that need it the most. The exploitation of cheap, underage, and female labor persists in many parts of the world. In the culture of global capitalism, the locations of factories, workers, and industrial waste sites are often shifted to the other side of the globe and conveniently shielded from view. Those who reap the benefits can easily absolve themselves from feelings of responsibility for those who suffer the losses in the so-called third world. In systematic global capitalism, the major players assume the power of masters of corporate rights and privilege and eschew responsibility for those that they disempower. Global capitalist ownership leaves no room for shared ownership as elements of our common human inheritance. Water, arable land, genes, and even human DNA are commodified and copyrighted for the extraction of maximum private profits, while the majority of the human population are dispossessed and transformed into consumer demographics. The Bhikkhuni Jamin S님 uses the analogy of cleansing to explain the essence of para, going beyond, which points to emptiness in the Heart Sutra. She says, and how do you achieve cleanliness? By washing with water? Where would you dispose of the soiled water? Do you burn it with fire? Then where would you deposit the ash? Do you sweep it? To which direction? Cleansing does not mean shifting from here to there. It happens right where you are, unquote. I interpret this to mean that cleansing need not entail contaminating another. In our collective effort toward a global cleansing, we should simply come together to clean up what belongs to everyone, without exceptions or conditions. This cleansing begins with a change of attitudes and individual habits by each individual. This is how we can become masters of caring for all who inhabit our planet, humans, animals, plants, and the earth itself. In my case, I will take responsibility not only for my senior citizen dog, 3 cats, and 3 children, and 2 grandchildren, and a husband, but also for all living and non-living beings in my environment. I pledge. I will learn to be more patient and understanding When my animals in my life soil my carpet or freshly made bed, they too are establishing themselves as masters of our shared space. In their own ways, they contribute to our household ecology, barking at strangers and chasing bugs around the house. Recognizing our interconnectedness and strong karmic connections, we can all work to master our shared responsibility for cleansing and protecting the earth, our shared home. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the inspiring and thought-provoking talk. It is now my great pleasure and an honor to introduce to you our last and final speaker this morning. Oh, no, not at all. Second to the last. Pardon me. Our second to the last speaker for the day in the topic of Buddhist women's communities. Venerable Thich Tu Tin Quan, who will present a paper on the future of Buddhist women in Vietnam. Venerable Thich Nu Tin Quan is a Vietnamese nun who was born and grew up in Vietnam, but she was ordained and finished her education abroad. She completed her PhD at the University of Wisconsin-Madison in December 2007. Her dissertation topic was Buddhist monastic education and regional revival movement in early 20th century in Vietnam. Currently, she lives and works at a temple in Redlands, California. It is my honor to present to you the Venerable Thich Nu Tin Quan. Thank you.
Thank you. Namo Sakyamuni Buddha. First of all, I would like to offer my best regard to the senior nuns and their disciples, the international and the local delegates of the 11thSakyadhita conference in Vietnam. I also like to thank Venerable Somo and the conference committee and everyone involved to put the conference together. Because of your hard work and efforts, I could be here to offer my contribution to celebrate the accomplishments of the eminent nuns and the lay Buddhist women and empower the Vietnamese Bhikshuni Sangha. Lastly, please note that the numbers cited in the paper are for the Mahayana and the mendicant monks and nuns only, excluding the Theravada monks. I will read my paper now. Due to the limited time, I will omit some parts of the paper. The Vietnamese Buddhist revival movement started in the 1920s. It is perhaps during this time that the Vietnamese nuns become visible through they only represented a small portion in the Sangha. Among the few hundred nuns, there were several eminent nuns who were bold and determined in their effort to seek monastic education for themselves and to establish school for nuns. By 1965, the Order of Nuns was established, which worked alongside of the Order of Monks for the specific purpose of overseeing the activities and developments of nuns. After 10 years, the Order of Nuns had grown to comprise nearly 25% of the total Sangha member. 1,668 nuns, over 4,502 monks. That presence was visible in all activity of the Sangha, from education to social work. In 1981, after 6 years of hiatus, the Vietnamese Buddhist Sangha was in operation, but only the Order of Monks was given the legal identity. The nuns still existed, but the Order of Nuns was recognized only by the Vietnamese Buddhist Sangha. By the beginning of 2009, the Vietnamese Bhikshuni Sangha was finally re-established. in part so that the Order of Nuns could host the 11thSakyadhita International Conference on Buddhist Women. Other issues were also addressed by the senior nuns as potential goals for the Order of Nuns in the near future. This presentation will look at the key goals set forth in terms of their historical aspect and potential outcomes based on the current condition and ability of the nuns. Re-establishing the Bhikshuni Sangha of the Vietnamese Buddhist Church was an important strategic decision. It has not only fulfilled the goal of hosting the 11thSakyadhita conference in Vietnam, but more importantly, it demonstrates that the Vietnamese nuns had gradually become an important force in the Sangha. The number of nuns rose from nearly 25% in 1972 to approximately 50% currently. Therefore, it is crucial for the nuns to seek legal identity, organize their members, and unite their strength in order to tackle certain issues that had been unresolved for a long time due to a lack of communication and guidance from the organized Bhikshuni Sangha. The first task of the Bhikshuni Sangha is a matter of housekeeping, namely to take a census of the population of nuns. The Bhikshuni Sangha will be in better position to manage the activity of nuns and to provide assistance to them, especially young nuns who must leave their remote temple for a period of time in order to pursue monastic and academic education in the cities. This is the important goal of the Bhikshuni Sangha can accomplish by establishing and strengthening branches in cities and towns throughout Vietnam. The second task of the Bhikshuni Sangha is to re-establish the school for nuns. Before 1954, Bồ in Gia Lâm and Vân Hồ in Hanoi were well known in northern Vietnam. Before 1975, Diệu Đức, which exists in Huế, and Diệu Quang in Nha Trang were the two well-known nunneries in central Vietnam. And in southern Vietnam, Dược Sư and Tu Nghiêm, both in Saigon, were well-known. In addition, there are many smaller and less well-known schools for nuns in other cities. Perhaps this goal of re-establishing school is more important for nuns because it would make it easier for senior nuns to manage the activity of their temples. Most importantly, this would help the Bhikshuni Sangha to best utilize the talents of numerous educated nuns who could fill all positions in their school for nuns. Principal, teacher, and manager of living quarters, and the daily religious practice of the nuns. Currently, the nuns are allowed to teach monks at Van Han Buddhist University, but this is not the case everywhere. The re-establishment of school for nuns would enable nuns with master or doctoral degrees to find meaningful teaching position at their own school. During the grand opening of the subcommittee that is specially responsible for nuns at the 6th session of the Vietnamese Buddhist Sangha 2007 and 2012, a group of senior nuns presented a list of goals to the Bhikshuni Sangha. They proposed, I quote, encourage educated nuns from temples in large cities and towns who have completed their education in both academic and monastic institutions and who inspire to participate in educational activity, to open elementary school and preschool to teach local children, and to participate in social welfare projects such as medical clinics where poor patients can consult doctor and receive medicine free of charge. They can open vocational school for disadvantaged youth who, after finish their education at this school, will have an obligation to support themselves, unquote. The social work project proposed here are not new to the Bhikshuni Sangha. In 1972, at the end of its second term, 1968-1972, the Northern Bhikshuni Sangha listed in their report that they operate in total of 71 schools. This school included the Bodhi private school that offer elementary and secondary education, and the Gotami private primary school, with a total of 12,300 students. In addition, the Northern Bhikshuni Sangha oversaw 41 daycare centers with 7,123 children and 6 orphanages with 1,125 children. There was a common unstated policy to allow poor students and children to enroll in this school and daycare center at a reduced rate or tuition fee. Overall, the goal that the senior nuns propose here are achievable given the current condition of nuns in Vietnam today. There are many excellent students of the eminent nuns from the Northern Bhikshuni Sangha, or those who have been working since before the establishment of the Vietnamese Bhikshuni Sangha and hold important position in the organization today. These nuns and their students will be key resources and workers for the Vietnamese Bhikshuni Sangha for decades to come. One issue that had not listed among the goals of the Vietnamese Bhikshuni Sangha, though had handled in different ways by the Sangha, it is how to balance the Buddhist activity with religious practice. On this topic, the eminent monk Tai Shu and Thích Chí Thủ employ different methods, but they share the same idea that monastics need to be trained for a specific career that they will perform throughout their life. Tai Shu go one step further in suggesting that there is more to Buddhism than simply worldly affairs. In other words, Tai Shu suggested that certain specially selected segment of the monastic population should be dedicated to cultivate the ultimate goal of liberation. In Vietnam, the respected master Bhikshu Thích Thanh Từ led his community of monks and nuns in this effort. He founded a series of meditation, monastery, and nunnery throughout Vietnam. A majority of them are located in southern Vietnam. These monasteries are self-sustaining because they grow their own rice and vegetables. They meditate and attend Dharma classes in their own temple, taught either by their senior monks and nuns or by Thanh Từ. Both monks and nuns who are students of Thanh Từ leave off their academic education once they enter the order. Thanh Từ is an inspiring meditation master who quickly draws a large number of disciples to his teaching. His work provides hope for Vietnamese Buddhism, and in particular, and Buddhism in general, in attaining the ultimate religious goal of liberation. Although the Northern Bhikshuni Sangha was discontinued for 35 years, the nuns could never give up the hope of reviving their organization and programs. Once the government allowed the Bhikshuni Sangha to re-establish, the senior nuns were elated and eager to get on with their work. Their plans and goals provide inspiration and hope for the future among their young nun disciples. There are now more human and material resources available to help Buddhist followers and children because they are centrally organized and can pool their energy and resources. Their educational plans for nuns and especially for children will be costly, and it is hoped that the government can assist them in building schools and restore Buddhist facilities that have been currently used for other purposes. Most importantly, the future of the Vietnamese Bhikshuni Sangha depends on the nuns who run the organization. It is crucial that the nuns with the right ability be elected to take lead committee and take charge of a key project to ensure their smooth and efficient operation. The future of Buddhist women will certainly be bright and prosperous. It starts with re-establishing a strong and vibrant Bhikshuni Sangha dedicated to accomplishing their plan and goal. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation.
Thank you very much, Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh Quan. It's again, another inspiring talk. And now it is my great pleasure to really introduce our last speaker. Bhikshuni Kelsang Chitta Karuna was born in Indianapolis, Indiana in July of 1963. She received her undergraduate degree in special education and child development from Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio in 1986. In October of 1987, Annie Chitta moved to Los Angeles and began her teacher career in preschool education. In 1993, she started her own private school for physically and mentally challenged preschoolers. Looking for a meditation practice to supplement her rich spiritual path, she came across Tibetan Buddhism. Feeling the pull from past karmic connections, she felt this was what she needed in her life. As she continued in the Tibetan practice, she decided to take ordination. In 1998, she was ordained in the Gulampa school as a Getsulma, a novice nun holding the 10 novice monastic precepts. In 2004, at the IBMC Grand Ordination, she received her Bhikshuni vows, the final vows of higher ordination, holding 348 Bhikshuni precepts from Venerable Dr. Karuna Dharma, the abbess of International Buddhist Meditation Center in Los Angeles, California. Bhikshuni Kelsang moved to IBMC International Buddhist Meditation Center in August of 2000, holding introductory classes in Lam Rim meditation retreats and Buddhist ritual practices. In 2001, Bhikshuni Kelsang moved to rural parts of Asia, including mainland China, outer Mongolia, teaching English, computer skills, and traditional Tibetan meditation. In 2005, after the devastating tsunami in Sri Lanka, she stayed for a year to work in an all-girl orphanage, also teaching English, basic computer skills, and beginning meditation. Currently under the direction of Venerable Karuna and other elder monastics at International Buddhist Meditation Center, Venerable Kelsang is forming IBMC's first female Sangha house, Palma Choling Nunnery. The nunnery focuses on Vinaya training and Bhikshuni ordination. Venerable Karuna will be speaking this morning on discovering Buddhist women's communities on the internet.
Thank you. Namo Ayida Fat. So thank you all for allowing me to come here before you today. I am Bhikshuni Kelsang Chitta Karuna, and I'm a student of Venerable Karuna Dharma, and I'm her personal assistant. I live with her at International Buddhist Meditation Center in Los Angeles, California. As many of you may know, Venerable Karuna Dharma is one of the founding presidents of Sakyadhita, and she is the heart disciple of the Most Venerable Thich Thich Nhat, and she's his Dharma heir. Venerable Karuna is also one of the oldest bhikshunis in the United States of America. When I say the oldest, I mean by Dharma age, of course, being one of the first American women to take bhikshuni ordination in the United States. I thought I should make that very clear so she doesn't shout at me later for calling her old. So my presentation today is a short overview of some of the sites on the World Wide Web of the many bhikkhuni sanghas across the United States and the world. I begin by referencing International Buddhist Meditation Center and Venerable Karuna Dharma because she has been so very instrumental in bringing, supporting, and continuing the bhikshuni ordination and the Western bhikshuni lineage. Venerable Karuna has been the preceptor for many bhikshunis in Western and Asian alike. Actually, Venerable Karuna has been the preceptor for ordinations of many of the bhikshunis that are here today. In 2004, Venerable Karuna Dharma gave ordination to 25 Western nuns from the Tibetan tradition. I had the great honor to be one of those bhikshunis. At the end of our Vinaya training, we asked Venerable Karuna if we could be allowed to carry her name. She very kindly granted our request. So we all added Karuna to our ordination name. And as a result, we formed what we decided would be a new line of Western bhikkhunis called the Karuna Bhikshunis. Since the 2004 ordination, Venerable Karuna has given bhikshuni precepts to around 6 more women from the Theravadan, Vietnamese, and Tibetan lineage. They have also become Dharma sisters in the Karuna Bhikshuni lineage. All of our ordinations at International Buddhist Meditation Center are conducted on a triple platform ordination. This means that the ordination masters are from all 3 traditions of the Dharmayana, Vajrayana, Mahayana, and the Theravada. And also all of the ordainees that come to receive bhikshuni precepts from IBMC and from Venerable Karuna Dharma are also from all 3 of the Dharma vehicles. Venerable Karuna has passed on to us the vision of Venerable Thich Thich Nhat, that all of our traditions and schools of Buddhism should work together in the Dharma, and that we are not Vietnamese, Chinese, Tibetan, or even American Buddhists, but that we are simply Buddhist. The opportunity to do this presentation came to me about 2 days before I was to get on the plane to Vietnam, which left me with no time for extensive research. So I put a call out to my Dharma sisters, the Karuna Bhikshunis, and asked them to please quickly send me links to their sites and some photos. So through the magic of the technology of the day, this presentation was created in just a few days by Bhikshunis from across the globe. So now I can present to you just a couple of sites of the Karuna Bhikshunis and some sites of other Bhikshunis who have come to be Dharma sisters of IBMC through the mutual love of Venerable Karuna Dharma and the ongoing work of the Dharma. So the photos I showed you so far were from our website at the temple where I live in Los Angeles, California, the International Buddhist Meditation Center. You can find our site at www.ibmc.info. Our website is run by one of our monks, Venerable Kusala Bhikkhu. He also has a website called Urban Dharma, which is worth checking out. Lots of information. He does podcasts. And our next site is the site of Venerable Bhikkhuni Sadama. Her center is in North Carolina. It's called the Carolina Buddhist Vihara. You can find her at carolinabuddhist.net. She is from the Thai Bhikshuni tradition. The next website is from a Bhikshuni Mudita Karuna, who is at the Ania Vihara in Germany. You can find her website at ania/vihara.org. She was ordained in 2004 with me as a bhikkhuni. And this is Venerable Panyavati Karuna, who Venerable Karuna and I ordained in 2008. Her hermitage is in Asheville, North Carolina. And you can find her at embracingsimplicity.hermitage.org. And this is Venerable Thupten Chodron's website. She is at Shrivasta Abbey in Washington. And Venerable Madhika Karuna is one of the Karuna Bhikshunis. She is in Athens, Ohio. She has a beautiful Dharma house that is made of sandbags. So you can read about her at her website, greatdetermination.com. And BuddhaNet is a website. It's a very extensive web ring where there's a lot of Dharma information. This site has listings of all the Buddhist temples around the world. It has Dharma teachings, daily meditations. There's a link for an e-library. And almost any resources you could need in the Dharma work you can find on this website. If your temple is not listed on the Buddha Net, you should go home and make sure that you get listed. So I wish I could have presented all the sites and links that I received, but due to the timing of trying to put all this together, I cannot. And besides, I hope this short sampling will inspire you to spend a little more time surfing the web for new and wonderful sites. Because when we surf the web, we never know what little gems we may find. So I hope we all have a chance to connect through the net, through email, through websites, and through the future of online teaching. This digital information age is and will continue to be most instrumental in bringing us all together to make this world a little more connected place. It's like the Buddhist nun said to the hot dog vendor, "Make me one with everything." Thank you. Namo Ayida Phat.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A real host of inspiring talks this morning. And based on the premise that the questions that we ask determine our future, we have a couple of minutes now to take some questions for the speakers at the panel this morning. So if anyone has any questions, remembering that the questions that we ask shape our future, the panelists this morning will be happy to address your questions. Thank you. We do have a question coming from this morning's talk. And this is the discussion group question that will form our discussion groups after the break today. And the question for all of us to hold is, what are the most serious challenges facing Buddhist women today? The question again is, what are the most serious challenges that are facing Buddhist women today? We want to thank all of our speakers very much for
into the
Chưa hề ngừng cái
CNN,
thành
right?
chưa hề ngừng
Yeah.
phải chụp hình rồi nó lan tràn khắp thế giới.
Đậu. Ở nhà đi Ấn Độ.
Đi Cali, đi Ấn Độ, đi Úc nhiều nha.
Này đi đủ nước á. Họ ba cái cô đó cũng chụp hình đem về Mỹ nè.
Tại vì nước ngoài người ta chỉ thích cái thủ công thôi. Người ta có nghĩ là cái chiếu này dệt bằng máy nhưng không phải. Cái chiếu sợi ni lông.
The language and culture is different from us. Even religion. No, someone. Whole family is Mormons are Buddhist, but there is
Maximum congregations, people, Buddhist and Muslim.
Hội thảo, chúng con xin được trân trọng giới thiệu trên bàn thứ nhất là chư tôn đức chứng minh, trên bàn thứ hai là chư tôn đức điều phối và trên bàn thứ ba là chư đại biểu diễn. Và người điều phối hôm nay là Hiroko Kawamami, là người Nhật, hiện là giảng viên trường đại học United States City.
We would like to introduce the moderator tonight, Dr. Hiroko Kawamami, the professor of Lancaster University.
Và để bắt đầu trong thảo luận chiều hôm nay, xin được bắt đầu bằng đề tài hành động vì môi trường của người mới bắt đầu do diễn giả Ed Cochen.
To start the session this afternoon, we will start with the beginner's mind information action.
Dạ, xin được.
Với sự gia tăng công việc.
Can you hear me? Thank you very much for coming back to the afternoon session. We have 5 speakers for this afternoon. The title of this session is called 11thSakyadhita, Protecting the Environment.
So we will be talking green this afternoon. The first speaker we have today is Adrian Cochran. She received her PhD in philosophy at the University of Hawaii at Manoa in 1999. She is now an associate professor at Trans-Pacific Hawaii College in Honolulu.
Bảo vệ môi trường và sẽ mời người được thuyết trình và thuyết trình thứ nhất. Xin kính mời.
Now, her talk is on environmental action, and I have to remind each speaker at the beginning that you have 15 minutes. I will warn you 2 minutes before the deadly gong, so please be aware of your time. Okay, so I would pass it on to Adrian.
Hello. I am honored to speak to such distinguished people and thank the Sakyadhita organizers and all the Vietnamese who have helped in putting this conference together. I would like to begin by noting I have drawn heavily on the works of Dzogchen Ponlop Rinpoche to the extent that I have correctly followed his views. The credit is entirely his. To the extent that I have not, the fault is entirely my own. Okay, with the increase in global warming and other environmental concerns, Buddhists must confront these issues and take action. However, policy should not be designed on business-as-usual approaches used in the past. A Buddhist approach to current environmental concerns includes releasing fixations on certain cultural and social constructs, as well as gaining awareness of one's habitual words and actions. Maintaining pure awareness means putting aside past narratives of how things have been done in the past so that new connections and more efficient methods may manifest. Connected to limiting conceptual constructs are emotions such as desire, arrogance, and fear. A Buddhist practitioner must also examine these habitual emotions in order to see clearly. Addressing environmental issues also includes policy making that is based on sound scientific facts coupled with what Buddhists call beginner's mind or childlike mind. In order to have beginner's mind, Buddhist practitioners may wish to study Buddhist teachings, reflect upon them, meditate, and then integrate these teachings in post-meditation activities. Study includes learning the Four Noble Truths of the Buddha, the reality of suffering, the reality that suffering is caused by desire, the reality that it's possible to end suffering, and the reality that the means to end suffering is the Eightfold Path. Since humans have desires and fixations, they suffer when they cannot get what they want. Also, they suffer when they get what they do not want. To get a clear idea about how the Four Noble Truths relate to environmental issues, it may be useful to examine some of the ways in which desire or craving may cause people suffering and also cause suffering in the environment. For example, people want easy access to material goods and convenient ways to get rid of things they no longer want. In order to get what it wants, a community may take natural resources without concern whether this practice is sustainable. The community may cut down trees without considering whether there will be enough forests in the future. The action of tree cutting not only affects future supplies of wood, it also causes an increase in greenhouse gases, which in turn leads to increased global warming. When the desire for an easy access to material goods is acted upon, then this causes suffering in the present and increased suffering in the future. Global warming may create more extreme weather patterns, and massive flooding may result from the melting of the polar ice caps. Suffering is also caused by a perceived need to acquire material objects so that a person might be regarded as a respected member of society. People think they need fashionable clothes, even if the old ones are perfectly functional, or a bigger car, even if it takes more gas to run than an older model. Are these material goods necessary for happiness, or are they a factor of social values, conceptual constructs that are unthinkingly accepted? The basis of these suffering is fixation, usually springing from the dualistic belief in self and other. In pure awareness, also called Buddha nature or Sagatagarbha, there is no dualistic fixation. Beginner's mind or ordinary mind is being in the state of pure awareness without these fixations. For a Buddhist practitioner to realize this pure awareness, he or she must have confidence in the correct view and train in meditation with this view as the support. When people see things dualistically, they do not have the correct view. They do not understand the emptiness of self and phenomena. From a Mahayana perspective, sunyata, or emptiness, includes the idea that in relative reality, all phenomena are interdependent. While people must negotiate relative reality, which necessitates interacting with phenomenon in a dualistic manner, this reality is ultimately empty. That is, while people perceive things in their environment, these objects do not independently exist. Awareness of emptiness also relates to the thoughts that people entertain. That is, quote, thoughts themselves are direct expressions of mind's luminous nature, end quote. What people perceive is closely related to their thoughts. First, an object is perceived. Then, second, it's conceptualized. People think, this is a flower, it's a rose. It has a lovely shape and smells good, so it's a good flower. As the thinking process continues, these thoughts carry people farther away from what's truly present. People's thoughts and feelings in their internal world are the basis of their continual self-narrations, while their perceptions of objects in the external world become attached to conceptual labels, and in the process, the phenomenon seem fixed and solid, instead of appearing empty, like dreams or illusions. When people start believing that the self and its created stories truly exist separate from other things, then duality becomes fixated in their thoughts and emotions. The thoughts themselves are not the problem. However, thoughts merely arise and disappear. Each thought is like a small metal ring. A metal ring by itself is not binding. But if a collection of rings gets linked together, these eventually form heavy chains. People suffer because they ascribe so much importance to themselves and to the phenomenon around them, clinging to what they like and rejecting what they do not like. Connected to these fixations are judgments regarding what is good and bad. People constantly place other people, situations, and objects into conceptual categories. When people conceptualize, they use their intellect to assess the environment instead of being fully present in the moment. People tend to create stories about their experience and then drag these stories around with them like heavy metal chains. The more people repeat or elaborate on the stories, like adding more rings to a metal chain, the heavier these chains of fixation become. In terms of environmental issues, people say, the problem of climate change is so complex and demanding, it cannot be solved. We cannot give up our consumer lifestyles. Or, they say, those who hunt, buy clothes made in sweatshops, or forget to recycle cannot be my friends. When Buddhist practitioners become fixated on their stories, then false barriers are set up, and the empty nature of self and phenomenon are overlooked. Another emotional fixation, which gets in the way of being truly present to one's surroundings, is pride or arrogance. While there is ultimately no duality, no ultimate separation of self and other, conventionally there are common bonds, such as all sentient beings share the potential to realize their Buddha nature. Also, from the Mahayana perspective, if one realizes the emptiness of self and phenomenon, then one realizes the true equality of all things. In conventional reality, if all sentient beings are interdependent and all sentient beings share the potential to realize their Buddha nature, then it follows that human concerns alone are not always the most important factor when making environmental decisions. One night, as I watched a strange worm crawl over a wall, I felt in my heart-mind, instead of intellectually, that the worm and I were equal. I felt humbled by my arrogant approach to other sentient beings. My attitude was arrogant, and that while I tried to avoid harming other creatures, and even tried to help them if possible, I still believed on some level that humans were superior to other creatures and more worthy of care. How can beginner's mind be achieved if humans still hold on to the arrogant story that people are of greater importance than other sentient beings? Another emotion which may impede beginner's mind stems from a group's concern that humankind or their particular community may be harmed. That is, the emotion of fear. Over time, people have created stories regarding who are their friends and who their enemies are. Based on these stories, they see predators such as tigers, wolves, and snakes as bad creatures that should be eliminated, without considering the important role these beings play in the ecosystem, and without considering that these creatures also have Buddha nature. Out of fear that their community will run out of safe drinking water or food, people prohibit access to those who they do not consider to be their friends. As history has shown time and time again, those who people currently consider to be their enemies were at one time their friends, and vice versa. So the status of friend or enemy is not fixed. Moreover, if all beings have the potential to realize Buddha nature, then those on the Buddhist path must consider the needs of those who seem to be their enemies. As one becomes more aware of limiting emotions such as fear, desire, and pride, then one may start detaching the narrative from the emotion and examine the emotion itself. Analytical meditation is particularly helpful in this exploration. Instead of focusing on why there is fear, they can focus on the feeling tone of fear itself. When the feeling is separated from the story content, they may begin to get to know the raw feeling and not get distracted from what is really around them. Meditation helps one to gain clarity regarding which is a feeling and which is the self-fabricated story. Over time, one finds in post-meditation, the habit of reacting in a fearful manner is slowed down. When a fearful reaction does occur, one notices it right away, which prevents the feeling tone from having a big impact on the way one interacts with the actual situation. Dzogchen Ponlop Rinpoche notes, quote, "Learning to work with our emotions in action means engaging them in the midst of our lives and using their powerful energies to enhance our mindfulness and awareness and spark our insight. It means that we do not stay the same, but are transformed through our encounters. Something does happen. We gain the ability to interrupt the momentum of our emotions. We see them with greater clarity and in a broader context. Finally, we learn to let go of our fixation of them." Closed quotes. In terms of environmental issues, this practice helps one to resist the desire to make hasty decisions based on perceived imminent threats to safety. In summary, in order to create environmentally sound policies, Buddhist practitioners may wish to study and reflect upon the Four Noble Truths, Shunyata and Sugatagarbha. When practitioners maintain the right view, they are one step closer to making good decisions. By meditating and being mindful in post-meditation, their conceptual and emotional fixations become apparent. When practitioners meditate and remain mindful in the post-meditation state, their absorption and day-to-day busyness lessens. They become